we're diving into the mind of a 17th century philosopher, René Descartes, to see how his wild method for finding truth can actually give us some pretty solid practical tips for our own lives. Sounds crazy, right? Well, stick with me.
So let's just jump right in with a question that honestly rattled Descartes right down to his core. I want you to really think about this for a second. What if something you believe, something that feels as obvious as the sky being blue, was just completely and utterly wrong? Imagine that feeling. You see, for Descartes, this wasn't just some hypothetical question you'd ask late at night. It was the actual reality of his time, and it was all kicked off by a massive, earth-shattering shift in how we understood the universe itself. I mean, for centuries, it was just pure common sense. You stand on the ground, it feels pretty solid, right? And you look up and you see the sun and the stars moving across the sky. So of course, everything must be revolving around us. It was one of the most unquestionable facts in the world. But then, new theories came along that argued pretty powerfully that this so-called obvious fact was a huge mistake. The entire model of the universe got flipped on its head. This created this kind of intellectual whiplash. Imagine being told that the very ground beneath your feet was actually hurtling through space. It was shocking.
And that feeling, what one source calls a case of the willies, pushed Descartes to ask a really profound and, frankly, terrifying question. If a belief that certain, that rock solid, could be wrong, what else was he completely wrong about? So who was this guy who decided to stare into this abyss of uncertainty and not blink? Let's meet the man himself. Now, he wasn't your typical stuffy academic, locked away in some ivory tower. In his younger days, he was actually a soldier of fortune, a world-traveling adventurer. But he saw what was happening, he felt the intellectual ground shifting under everyone's feet, and after procrastinating for years, which is pretty relatable, he finally decided he had to do something about it.
Okay, but before he could even think about building a new foundation for knowledge, he had to make a crucial decision. He had to figure out which tools he could actually trust. Was it his five senses, what he could see and hear and touch, or was it the pure power of his own mind?
On one side of the debate, you've got empiricism. This is basically the show me the evidence approach. It's the idea that all real, trustworthy knowledge has to come from our sensory experience. If you can't see it or measure it, it's just a guess. But Descartes, he went the other way. He championed rationalism. His argument was, look, our senses can fool us all the time, but pure logic, that's solid. It's like a math proof. You don't need to see 2 + 2 = 4 happen in the real world to know with absolute certainty that it's true. You get there with reason alone. And this really gets to the heart of the conflict. Descartes was like, sure, our senses are great for not walking into walls, but as a foundation for eternal, unshakable truth? No way. I mean, think about an optical illusion, or how a straight stick looks bent when you put it in a glass of water. Your eyes are literally lying to you. They just can't be trusted. So, having chosen reason as his weapon of choice, Descartes started on this incredibly radical project. He called it a general demolition. He wasn't just going to patch a few things up, he was going to tear down every single one of his beliefs. And he knew that to do this right, he had to set the stage. And this, right here, this is our first big practical life lesson from Descartes. If you want to solve a really complex problem, you have to be intentional about it. You've got to step away from all the noise, get rid of distractions, find some peace and quiet, and actually give yourself the space to think deeply. And that's the whole point. This wasn't just a bit of mental spring cleaning. This was a total gut renovation of his mind. He wanted to tear the entire building of his beliefs down to the studs, just to see what, if anything, was actually solid at the very bottom. And this is another powerful technique we can totally use in our own lives. It's about practicing healthy skepticism. You deliberately step outside your own bubble, outside your assumptions, and you ask the hard questions. Why do I actually believe this? Is it based on solid reasoning, or is it just something I've always been told? It's about figuring out what's worth keeping and what needs to go. So, after the demolition, when all you have is a pile of rubble, what's the plan? Well, the goal was to create a brand new blueprint for knowledge, one built on a foundation that could never, ever be shaken. And you can just see his ambition here. He wasn't just trying to find a few true things. He wanted to build an entire system of knowledge, from the ground up, on foundations so logical, so firm, that no one could ever doubt them again.
a system built not on what he saw, but on what he could prove with reason alone.
And that really brings us to the final challenge that Descartes leaves for all of us. If you actually did it, if you tore down every single assumption, every opinion, every obvious fact you hold, what would be left? What single truth would you use as your very first brick to start building everything back up? What's your unshakable foundation?